Hi, I am on Imagination. I'm not sure if I'm doing an episode of Psych Soup or Shifting Perspectives or Subconscious Dialogues. I don't know what I have here. Or The Witch's Corner. I have four, isn't that interesting? Four podcasts, one for each personality type. Isn't that interesting? Very interesting. Very interesting. I'm still integrated. I can feel it. One conscious mind. It's interesting because it's like they're coming out in different. Well, I guess that's what we're going to do. We're going to go on the red carpet today and we're going to go ahead with. I feel the performer coming out. So I'm going to assume that this is officially the first episode of. I can't think of what it's called. Subconscious Dialogues. The Subconscious Dialogues. Talking to myself. So I started talking to myself when I was around 8 years old. Right around the first time that the multiple personality split. I never understood why I was doing it. That's one of the things I love about where I am in life right now is looking back, it now makes a lot of sense. But at the time, it made no sense to me. I had no idea why I was talking to myself. And I don't mean a little bit. I mean hours every day from the time I woke up to the time I did this, just like this. And the older I got and the more personalities I had, the more I switched and talked to each other. And I remember what it felt like to be each and every one of those. I remember what it feels like to be Imagination. And I remember what it feels like to be Berrigan. And I remember what it feels like to be my beautiful Fey Witch. She didn't really have a name. I called her Kalan because the therapists were all like, name them. And I couldn't come up with a name for her. She didn't have a name. That was her name. She was the Fey Queen. She was nameless. That was the point. She was the Fey Queen. The witch. The Fey Witch. That was the other thing I called her many times. She is Satan's wife. She's the one in charge of the Devil's Dungeon BDSM studio that I have. That's probably going to find its way into the Healing Garden also. I'm not going to lie. My father was the first to notice that I talked to myself. He'd knock on my door, very critical, and just look at me. Who are you talking to? That was the first time I felt it. That I was different, and I couldn't understand why. Looking back, it's really ironic that he hated the anomaly in me that he created because of his hatred and rejection. There are people who believe that the patriarchy is the best thing in the goddamn fucking world. And those people will do pretty much anything to destroy another human being to make sure that they conform to that ideal. And these were the people who were my husbands. These were the people who were my brothers. And these were the people who was my father and my stepfather. The people who said that the patriarchy is right. It doesn't matter if you're Republican. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat. The patriarchy is right. And that no matter where you fall on your political spectrum, you had better obey that goddamn patriarchy, and I will take you down and break apart every bit of you to make sure you fit. That is how I was raised. That is how I was grown up, and I did not get to escape until 2020. I didn't escape a slave cult society like people imagine sometimes. They've asked me, where did you grow up? And they're expecting me to say Asia or Africa. And when I say New York, they look at me like, what the fuck? New York, like right here? Central New York, that's where I grew up. That's what did this to me. And then after they broke me and fucked me up, they turned right around and they hated me even more because they could see what they had done to me. So now they lie to themselves. That's where they are now. They're on the lying stage. An abuser hates himself. An abuser can't stand himself. An abuser hates himself so much more than you ever will. Abusers and narcissists are the ones who hurt the most. So however much you hurt, think about how much more your abuser hurts. Now, you don't have to give a fuck. I'm going to tell you right now, permission to not give a fuck. Okay? All right? Not the point. The point is that takes my brain and I start sneaking in and getting a microscope, and I want to understand why. I want to understand how their brain processes fear differently than everybody else. And it's not that it's different. You see, we were exposed to fear. Non-narcissists were exposed to fear with humility. Narcissists, abusers, were exposed to fear without the humility. That's the only difference. This is the difference that humility makes. I am convinced that if I can figure out what logically causes humility, then we can just take the narcissists and put humility into them so that if their brain can be unlocked to expose humility, if only, then we could solve narcissism. That's right. Narcissism just lacks humility. If we can plug that emotion in, it'll completely change the rewiring in their nervous system, and they'll stop abusing. God, if only, if only. So I am the subconscious whisperer. I can look at a subconscious mind and know immediately what it's thinking, doing, saying. I'll talk to somebody. Hell, I'll just look at them, and within a minute, I can tell a lot, and I've done it. It's a party trick that I do. It's quite fun. It's a party trick that I have. When I go to parties, people will bring people over to me and be like, do her, do her. And I will break everything down in about 2 minutes. And people are just like, what the fuck? And then I'll go over some of their diagnosis, and they're like, it took my therapist 2 years to find that. You did it in 2 minutes. Yeah. It's a party trick I do. And it's gotten me a reputation. It's fun. But it's pure logic. It's just, so imagine you're an 8-year-old child and you have the power to manifest. I didn't know this. And one of the very first things I manifested was the beautiful line, best thing I ever did for myself. I wish I could think like Sherlock Holmes. That was the very first manifestation I made. I wish I could be like Sherlock Holmes. And I did. That's why I picked up the first books. That's why I studied philosophy and psychology, because the universe shifted with my manifestation. It aligned with me, and I felt it in my gut. And I went, I need to go read philosophy, mathematics, geometry, and psychology. I'll be right back in 30 years. And there you go. I really think that's what it was. Manifested that shit. I wish I could be like Sherlock Holmes. And I remember, oh God, I manifested that. I read that first page. And it's when it was Hounds of the Baskerville. And he walked in and he saw the teapot. And within like 30 seconds, Holmes broke down everything that had happened. And Watkins was just like, what the fuck? You can see the future. And he goes, no, I can't see the future. I'm just highly logical. And I went, that's what I want to do. Oh, when I grow up, I want to be Sherlock Holmes when I grow up. And people think I tell the future, but I don't. I can just see all the dominoes. Oh boy, do I see the dominoes. I see event after event after event after event after event, all of them lined right up. And I could see all the ones that were before this to get us to this point, because we can only have arrived at this particular moment, at this particular point, based off of certain particular circumstances. Therefore, if society's behavior is X, that means that behavior that was planted that we don't talk about 2,000 years ago will still have left its trace. And I can see it. I can see all the logic of both sides. So that when I see something, it just clicks and I understand it. And when something's not logical, boy, do my red flags go off. So many red relax. My whole body lights up and I just go, no, something isn't logical. Something is just not logical here. And now I've learned to trust that instinct. I didn't trust it for a very long time. In fact, I threw it away because my identity was taken away from me. So I couldn't feel that gut feeling. Now I feel it all the time because my intuition is back. I am back. My identity is back. I'm whole. And the more I bring myself in and I've known myself, the more all the energy and all the logic and all the pieces are clicking in and everything is becoming clairvoyant. Beautifully so. Because I've reunited with my identity. And that's what we're going to be doing. That's what the whole world is going to be doing. We're all going to be reconnecting with our identities because I know how. I know how. I really do. And I can see it all. I can see from this point and I can see so far into the future. But not because it's just moving and shifting dominoes. And once you understand what dominoes are needed in place to do what. But no, I can see where all the dominoes are going. It's not hard. It's logic. It's just logic. It's just logic. I was talking to my partner this morning. And I'm still trying to figure out love because it's new to me. When you grow up with narcissists, you don't get to understand really what love is until you get away from that. And I had that moment where everything shifted and I suddenly understood it. And I was talking to him about imposter syndrome. And he goes, I never said anything about imposter syndrome. Why do you think I have imposter syndrome? And I said, you told me you do. And it just clicked. I have memories, 5, 6 memories, different situations, events where he had said something to me. His personality was completely different. He gave me a little bit of personality, a little bit of information, and then vanished. And then a few hours later, I would be like, dude, you said X. And he's like, no, I didn't. No, I have no memory of that. And it's happened about 5, 6 times now. One day, wow, I went into full karate mode. Okay. Wow, that's still there. Damn. I hate the 4th of July. Last year, I had no symptoms at all. This year, they're back. And I'm like, why? Come on, Rick. Because I'm Angela. Joanna had PTSD that I got rid of. Angela also had PTSD. Multiple personality disorder. Every personality, including the core, has its own collection of mental disorders. I took care of Joanna's 44 triggers. I did not realize that Angela also has trauma, and Angela does. She's the one who watched the animals get hurt. Okay, so I have PTSD to work on like I'm 5. This is going to be fun. So you guys get to sit through. What's coming up now is me working on PTSD, and you get to see how I handle PTSD. It's going to be so much fun. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. I can actually record it now. All right, so let's do this. July 4th, I noticed that I had PTSD. I'm going to document my symptoms, how I do my research, and you guys can actually see how I get rid of a mental illness. This is going to be so much fun because usually I just do this on my own, and then I'm like, well, I'm sitting here writing thesis papers, big freaking whoop. I'll blog them in, yay. Now I get an audience. So I can be like, I'm going to show you how I get rid of. So I'm going to make up a group. I did shadow walking earlier. I'm going to do a new group, and this is going to be, oh, fuck. This is going to be so much fun. PTSD is my favorite. Okay. Yeah, I'll walk you through it. I'll do a group, and then I'll have you all come over to the group, and you can watch me do work on my PTSD so you can see how I do it. Fuck. So I just achieved stage 1. That is awareness stage. Now that I am aware and consciously aware that this version of me also has PTSD. Now, the first thing I need to do is sit down and write a list of all of my triggers. So that is going to be my homework today, is identifying all of my triggers. And we can definitely put fireworks as one of those triggers. Shit. This is okay. So, all right. This is a great opportunity. This is fantastic. Oh, I'm going to love this. Oh, I love taking care of PTSD. It's my favorite mental illness. Okay. Oh, how far I've come. I just realized that my partner, his subconscious mind has been trying to talk to me. And so he'll say a sentence spattered here and there, and then his subconscious mind will shut off. It's done it several times now. I believe that his subconscious mind subconsciously knows that I can help him. So the subconscious mind talks to me every now and then, giving me breadcrumbs and clues as to tell me what is wrong with him and how to help him. The subconscious mind then completely shuts down. I'm going to do this. The subconscious mind then completely shuts down, wipes his memory, and almost instantly he has no memory of what he said to me. But I have cookie crumbs that tell me I've been given a message. And I just received the last one today, about an hour ago, which is why I'm doing this video cast now. It's because I was talking to my partner and we found yet another comment that he had made to me with no memory. And I reiterated the comment and he's got no memory of it. This time it's about imposter syndrome. So I'm looking at it going, all right, if I were to take the entire, everything said by his subconscious mind during those moments of blacked out memory, I can put together a message and I can read what it says. And I can see it now very clearly what this message says. That is between him and me. I'm not going to be disclosing it. But that is what I'm supposed to do. That is what I'm supposed to do. I am supposed to help him get out. But I had it wrong. It wasn't the conscious awareness. It wasn't the subconscious. It was his identity. His identity got through to me. And then his subconscious mind immediately erased it to protect the conscious awareness. That is what I've been seeing. And it coincides with my gut feeling. 5 times, 6 times over the last 2 years, this has happened. It first happened it first happened July 20th of 2021. And then it happened again over and over and over. It happened the night Imagination came out. That was the night it said to me, "Oh, I have missed you." And he looked at me like he knew me. I told you I'm on a twin flame journey. This one's big. And it's really hard to explain to people who and what I am. It's really hard because there's so many different components for myself. And that's, I think, no, logically, I know exactly what it is I'm doing here. I'm still trying to find my identity, and I'm at the end. I'm at the last stage of healing. This is it. This is called the belonging, the knowing, and the authority. And it's not a moment. No, this stage of healing, this is what it looks like. This is the last stage of healing. That's what I needed to tell you. That's what I've been trying to show all of you. I've recorded my entire healing journey. I've blogged it. I wrote books on it. I have recorded my entire healing journey. And now I'm going back and I am accumulating all that data and laying a path out for you so you can follow my path to help get yourself out. Because I didn't just heal. I transformed my life. This is just the last stage of healing. And this is just me finally realizing my true identity and being able to claim it and take it back with pride. This is healing. It's the last stage. There's a lot of people out there who keep saying things like, mental illness has no cure. Want to fucking bet? I have 8 years of documented sources scattered across my entire social media and my published Amazon books showing you this is the journey. There is a cure. This is the end. And it starts with my book, Broken, in 2015, and it ends right now with a healing garden. This is my final destination. This is me in the last stage of healing because there is an end. It's called the knowing, the belonging, and the authority. It's when you finally realize who you are so much that you can take and own all the parts of you. You own and you claim who you are. That is the knowing. That is the knowing. And my knowing is that this information is going to fix the world. Because I know how to articulate exactly what I need to say to change your perspective so you can see what I see. I'm a writer. So all you have to do is step into my perspective and I can draw you in with the words I write. I can show you what I see. I don't have to write them down. I can present them here to you. And if I can use my words and my skills to shift your perspective to precisely where you need it to be so that you can see what you need to change, who you are, how to do it, what's going on, and where you are, you too will reach your knowing and your belonging and your authority. Healing is the journey of getting to the knowing, the belonging, and the authority. It's what should have been done for us, to us, and with us as children. We should have been receiving the knowing, the belonging, and the authority. And it was our parents and our caregivers' responsibility to give that to us. And they failed terribly. And you cannot think right until you have reached the knowing, the belonging, and the authority. And you cannot live right until you have reached the knowing, the belonging, and the authority. You can't function and you can't think. You can't be and you can't live. You can't love. You can't feel home. You can't feel whole until you reach the knowing, the belonging, and the authority. That's why you're in pain. That's why you have mental illness. That's why you're lost. That's why you're at the healing garden trying to figure out all of this shit out. Because you are that fucking desperate to find the fucking answer. And everything else has failed you. That's why you're here. Because you are at your absolute bottom low point. And you've tried therapy. And it's not working for you. I know why. Because I had the same problem. This was my last stop too. You know that thing that they say to you, what you're looking for is always in the last place you looked? Well, that's psychology to me. That's what I feel like. I feel like I'm the one who wraps this thing up, puts a little bow on it, throws it back at the government and says, here you go. Now can you fucking get this right? Because that's the last point. That's where I'm at. Because, hello, I found the knowing and the belonging and the authority. And I'm standing here going, guys, you gotta try this thing. Because this is gonna fix us. Because I can see the dominoes. I can see the dominoes. And every little part of my body is just purring, going, this is it. This is it. Everything logically checks out. Everything logically checks out. You can logically prove psychology. And I did it. Boom, here's the formula. There's a formula. I wrote it down. And I'm just like, oh, Josh, Josh. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. So the day I can figure out my actual name, oh, and I feel it coming. Psychological coach is in there. Somebody gave me that title the other day, psychological coach. And I went, ooh, that's my name now, is it? Interesting. Because it's all about finding your name. That's the knowing. It's when you find all of your names. That's the knowing. Oh, that's the knowing. I love the knowing so much. When you find all of your names, all of the names. And this list is always going to change. It always grows. And the further your life gets along, the more names you accumulate. We're not supposed to stop accumulating names, people. We're supposed to be spending our entire lives accumulating names. If you're not accumulating names, then you're not on an adventure. And you gotta be on an adventure because that's fun. Because that's when things are new and exciting, and that's when things really start to open up for you. And that's when you really get to see the world. You can see anything you want to see in adventure. It's all about perspective. I love this technique so much. I love everything about it so much. It's my baby. It's my brain baby. It's my life. It's my joy. It's who I am. It is my identity. It's like I have taken all of my gorgeous sunlight and wrapped it up into this thing and said, here's the Warshak print. Please go feel better. Please feel better. I can't stand it when a single person suffers. I just can't. I can feel all of it. I can feel all of it. I can feel all the pain and all the fear and all the joy and all the love. I can feel all of it. And the only time I could get a little bit of silence is when it rained, or when I stepped into the moonlight, or when I walked the trees alone and naked. When I swim in the sea, that's when it drowns it out. And then I can breathe again. But it motivated me to find out how to help everyone. It motivated me to step up and say, if I'm logical like Sherlock Holmes, because I manifested that shit, if I am logical like Holmes, and I have this massive passion in life to help and save everybody, and I studied philosophy and psychology and sociology, there's a lot of mathematicians out there and physicists who are just doing the proof. That is my truth. And I plan on doing it. I valued education more than anything in the world. I value education so passionately. We hurt so much because as a race, we're pretty stupid. And you know what stupid people do? They make you stupider because they keep turning down the importance of education until you get a man like Trump in office. Now that was embarrassing. Come on, America. It's a popularity contest. That's really what politics is. That's what voting is. It's a popularity contest. It's a bunch of teenagers, cliquey girls, and sporty dudes all arguing over, well, I'm popular, so I should totally run the place. Like, totally. And because she's pretty, we voted her into office. Or because she had so much money, we voted her into office. It's a popularity contest. Nothing else. Who can buy the biggest ads? Who can buy the biggest propaganda to brainwash the American public? Come on. It's not rocket science. In the meantime, there's scientists over here. Scientists. And, doctors. I don't think I've ever seen a single doctor actually. Well, no, that's not true. But that's the point. That's the point. Why aren't we putting the dude with the highest IQ? Why wasn't Einstein running the place? Why was he off coming up with, because he's a physicist and he didn't want to run the place. But really, why wasn't Einstein on staff at the White House for consultations? Because that's what smart people would do. But smart people don't run politics. So I feel like the jackass is running the country. The jackass in reference to a Buddhistic fable and not the political comments of the elephant and the jackass, just to clarify. So I feel like this jackass, the one who calls the grass blue, is running the White House. And all the people in the country are watching this jackass run the White House. And they're all being fed bullshit from the jackass declaring that the grass is blue. And all of the people are now arguing, the grass is green, the grass is blue, the grass is green, the grass is blue. But no one is stopping to go, dudes, why are you taking propaganda from a jackass? No, you'd rather argue over everything. And it's like, you realize you're arguing with Trump, right? Come on, people. Study Buddhism. Study Buddhism. Because Buddhism teaches you to think. Because it's a philosophy. Interesting that of all the religions, I decide the one best for me is the one based in philosophy. I just realized that. I remember being a child saying, if I'm going to choose any religion, it's going to be Buddhism. But now I love alcohol and I love weed. So Buddha says no. But philosophically speaking, I don't know why it's any of his business because he's just a philosophy and he's not a god. So I can call myself a Buddhist and indulge in physical pleasures. So yeah, this has been a massive pursuit for the identity. And I think that's it exactly, is when I created my podcast, like Shifting Perspectives, that's where I put my logical brain. That's very much my Sherlock Holmes. We're going to sit down and go over philosophy. We're going to delve into it. And I'm going to really turn down the theater best I can. In Shifting Perspectives, I really want to get into, okay, let's explore the stuff that Nim's going to want to dissect. Let's get into that stuff because that's where I'm fascinated. But then let's hop, skip, and a jump on over to Psych Soup. Now, Psych Soup, I'm casual. Psych Soup is more of a research department. That's where I have a new idea. I don't want to call it fact. I don't want to label it under my logical. And that's it. I have these two modes. I had our modes. I have this is highly logical. This all checks out logically. And then I have it doesn't. And that's it. It doesn't. So Shifting Perspectives is where I put all of my stuff. That's very much, it checks out. This is the stuff I have run through the system 8 million times, and my logic system checks it out. My Sherlock Holmes checks this out. I'm going to call it my Sherlock Holmes. My Sherlock Holmes checks this out. So I'm going to set that over there. Now, over here to this stuff that doesn't. This goes to Psych Soup. This is where I theorize and do hypotheticals in my blog, Exploratory Dialogues, and also in my in Shifting Perspectives, or not Shifting Perspectives, in Psych Soup. And that's where I basically use writing and words, oral, to hypothesize new feelings and insights. And that's where I really dig in deep to new theories. And once it checks out, then I move it over to Shifting Perspectives. So that's my madness. And then I have meditation for beginners, but that's kind of like, that just focuses on how to start opening conversation with your identity and your subconscious. But then this lovely little group, the Subconscious Dialogues, it's twofold. It's opening up my identity and embracing who I am by giving myself a stage. And I'm going to take some time to warm up. I'm still not at my full blown. I'm intense. I'm Shakespearean actor trained. I'm intense. Okay? This is me holding back because every time I showed the side, I was severely beaten. So I'm actually doing exposure therapy. This is what exposure therapy looks like. And I've found a way to safely expose myself to this, which is why I am hypersensitive right now to the fireworks. There it is. Oh, I love PTSD. I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, why am I jumping? Okay, so here's how it works. When you have a mental illness, this is now we're going to step into psych world for just a little bit here. Okay. Well, we're in subconscious dialogues, so I can totally do that. Okay, so here's how this works. This is my little brain. Okay. And I basically have a security system, which is me laying down boundaries and me going, I don't feel comfortable with that. I don't like fireworks. I don't like loud noises because loud noises does trigger me. And it is something that I'm always going to have there. And I've managed to get rid of it, like turn it off, get rid of it. But it's a switch. It's a switch in your mind. Kind of like you can have HIV, AIDS virus today, but you can be undetected. You get it? It's kind of like that, where because it's memory muscle, basically, it's familiar. It's going to be a while before it's completely solidly established as a new norm. So once you get into this last stage of healing, your mental illnesses are all turned off now. But on that surface is the muscle memory. So if something triggers it, a firework, boom, it could turn back on again. Now, last year I had that under control. But at this particular time, I am exposing myself to theater. Theater is a known PTSD trigger for me. Anywhere on the stage, near the stage, singing, performing. If I sing opera, I can sing opera great off to the side. But you put me in front of an audience and I go flat because I am instantly waiting for a fist to punch me in the face, literally. So this is now me exposing myself to this very raw trauma. Theater. It's the first time in 40 years. I got to think. I was 18 the last time I was on a stage. But the first time I was on a stage and the only time I was on a stage without anxiety was when I was 4 years old. So it's anywhere between 30 to 40 years where I'm finally exposing myself to this trauma. And that's causing my fear to go a little bit. And I'm going, it's okay. This is exposure therapy. We got to keep the fear down. Okay. I have my defense system. A firework goes off. Damn. See what happened there? That is mental illness. That's PTSD. So it's pausing, slowing down, and redirecting, which is where the meditation comes in, which is where meditation for beginners comes in, which is why it is so important that we have the ability to pause and have the conversation with the subconscious mind. Because now I can say to the subconscious mind, Rick, do we need to talk? And Rick is going to be like, no, everything's fine. I have everything under control, because that's what Rick does. Rick is tricky. And he knows every stupid little book, every little stupid little trick in the book. And he has used them all. And then Rick passes this book around to everybody else's subconscious, because we all watch, observe, and learn. Yeah, figure this out. This is awesome. Stay with me. So you're watching my subconscious behavior, and I'm watching your subconscious behavior, and I'm watching people watching, because it's New York City. So I'm watching like 5,000 people a day. And every time I'm watching, I'm putting data into my memory bank. Listen to this. This is amazing. And that is telling me how a subconscious mind should behave 5,000 times, 5,000 people. I have been trained. We all have. Our subconscious minds are constantly collecting data to see how one subconscious mind interacts with another, so we know exactly how. And that is why we are interacting as a net. Because every time we see or hear additional behavior, we go to work learning. That's why we people watch. That's why we tell stories. That's really what's going on, is we are people watching. And when we are people watching, we are learning. And when we are learning, our minds are racing 1,000,000 times a minute, processing this data, learning how to respond in different subconscious situations. Just the other day, we had a fight outside. I'm new to neighbor fighting. This one was intense. Police were called. It was violent. It was aggressive. And I sat there and I watched it, and it all poured in, and I stayed tuned into it. And I was watching their subconscious behaviors just interact off of each other. And we were all learning. That's what this is. This is learning. It is memorizing. That is learning. It is memorizing. That's what we're doing. We are learning and we are memorizing when we observe and when we watch and when we tell stories. And because our subconscious mind is absorbing all this data through an unconscious conscious awareness, what's being done? What do you think we're taking in? We're not taking anything in. We're not listening. We have to be conscious about what we're learning. We have to be mindful of what we're learning. To do this, you got to wake up the conscious mind. You got to become aware. You have to see a different perspective than what you're looking at. Because right now, when you look at one perspective, you only see this. This is where perspectives are beautiful and dangerous and fragile and flexible. They are all the things. A perspective has the ability to show you anything and nothing. One perspective could have blinders on. Another perspective could have a different personality attached to it. Another perspective could have a different mental illness attached to it. One perspective could be one particular trauma or compound traumas, compound mental illnesses or no illnesses. It's all about perspective. It's all about how we adjust the way we perceive something, the way we look at something, and the way we're able to take it in. This is how we are. This is how we are as people. I do this often. I can feel it, where I just pause and I breathe. And I'm still in the knowing. Sometimes I look at myself. Most of the time, I never recognized who I was. Every time I saw myself in the mirror, I was a stranger. And sometimes, especially since the knowing and the belonging, I look at me and I have familiarity. It's the first time in my life I've recognized myself. But the memories I have of this person are not from the mirror a couple days ago. It's not from the camera reflecting back at me, showing me who I am because I recorded this morning. I saw her 40 years ago in my mind's eye when I envisioned myself becoming a woman, growing up. This is who I saw. This is who I wanted to be. That's how I know you. That's how I know who I am. That's the familiarity. And the first time I saw this woman in 40 years, where I literally was in the eyes of my lover, he looked at me and he saw this. He saw my potential. He saw who I was under everything I had to be. I often tell him that he's the one who reached into the sewers and pulled me out because he saw a goddess and a queen under all the filth and the whore. And he's the only one who ever saw that part of me. And then I said to myself, he sees me the way I used to see myself, the way I know I could become. And then I said, I want to be that woman. I want to be that woman. And I manifested the woman I wanted to be. And over the next 2 years, I shaped in my body and my mind, molded drastically because I had to become this massive CEO business owner of the Healing Garden, where I literally slap psychology over the side of the head and said, here, try this. And give them triadic healing with a completely different perspective on the subconscious mind, philosophy, and psychology. And then I feel that moment where I just pause and I step back from that perspective and I feel my intuition and I just go inward. And my system goes, yes, Sherlock, it checks out. And I go, okay, it checks out. It checks out. Chess, that's another part of I love playing chess. Oh my fucking God. It's my dream to play chess in New York City. Why am I remembering that? See, like I said, you open it up and you say, oh yeah, I did have that dream once, long, long ago. I used to want for nothing more than to play chess in Central Park. So that every time I find the chessboards in Central Park, I take thousands of pictures. But I don't sit down and play because I'm scared. Because the last time I embraced that personality. So the question I have for you that I'm going to leave you on is, how much of your identity do you really know? How much knowing do you have? That little girl, that little boy you used to be, who used to dream about yourself in the future. When I grow up, I'm going to be. Who is that? Because that's who you should be. And at the end of the day, it's just a little child inside of us sad because we're not that. Bottom line, limiting belief number 1. When you were a child and you said, when I grow up, I'm going to be, are you there? Yeah, I wasn't either. And my identity had a huge problem with that. And my identity rebelled so much that it literally said, fuck this shit. I'm going to New York. And I did. Because that is where I was going to be, according to my 4-year-old brain. I'm going to live in New York City and I'm going to be this powerful CEO businesswoman. And I'm going to be famous and popular and rich and awesome. It feels good to be home. It feels really good to be home. So yeah, that's the question for you. Who did you want to be when you grew up? What's stopping you? My name is Unimagination. Thank you so much for joining me at the Subconscious Dialogues.